Namaste and welcome to the Divas That Care Network. I'm your host, Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you are listening to Above the Ground podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, our network is going into its 15th year and is listened to in over 30 countries. I'd like to personally thank you for giving me the gift of your time. As always, it is my honor to hold space for you. And today, I'm very excited that we have an amazing guest joining us. Her name is Bansal, and I've recently been exposed to her artwork, and it is absolutely breathtaking. In addition to how colorful and vibrant her artwork is, she seems to have that same colorful and vibrant spirit about her. And in addition to that, the story behind what inspired her artwork is just near and dear to my hearts, and I hope it will be near and dear to our audience's hearts as well. So, Sang, may I please ask you to introduce yourself and the name of your business and what inspired you to become such a, I'll say, divine inspiration for all of us women.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Gia. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Sangeeta, but I go by Sang. And I'm an artist and I create work inspired by spirituality, mythology, and the divine feminine power. Basically, my art is all about storytelling. It's female centric and it brings together symbols like light and healing and abundance, and I weave them into portraits. And I got inspired to paint stories of women when I was working as a public health dentist. I used to specialize in women and women's health. And I started meeting a lot of people who had these interesting stories to tell about their lives, about their spirituality, about their religion. And I would go home and start painting all these stories. And I realized that people actually connected with these pieces. Many of them found it healing. They found that it related to them. And so then I started doing more and more. And now my art is not just related to prints, but I also paint on coasters and jewelry. I'm actually wearing some of my jewelry today
Oh,
too.
beautiful.
And, clutches, just stuff that you can carry along and points that can be an icebreaker and you can tell a story with it.
I think that's beautiful, and it's such vibrant work that you'd use. And obviously, there's a bit of with the mythology that you mentioned. There's a bit of
Absolutely.
a history there, and a depth, and a connection, maybe to a little bit of an overlap between what I've always done from a yoga perspective. Well, not always, but since I became a yoga instructor, and kind of delved into that, and through kind of your ties to that same mythology. Would you give us a little bit of background? So let me just share with our audience, when you and I started talking, you mentioned that some of your artwork was chakra based. And so I would
Yes.
love to hear a lot about, and she mentioned that she created basically, well, and just let me be clear, because I don't want to misspeak. Did you create the alignment, or it was actually the gods or goddesses that are already aligned with specific chakras?
So the gods and goddesses are aligned with the chakras, but what I did was I painted the chakras as feminine. I painted them as goddesses, and I put my own spin on it as well. So I'm actually a Reiki practitioner too, and I've been doing Reiki for many, many, many years. And so I believe in the whole flow of energy that binds us all together. And so that's how I started getting into chakra healing, and I decided to start painting them and write little stories so people could just look at it and tell what it's about and get an idea of the chakra, the energy behind it, and then start reading more about it.
I love that. I love that. And I'm also a Reiki practitioner as well. So there's another
Oh,
common
that's
thread that we have, which is
absolutely.
amazing. Yes. And I find that the more you work with the energy, the more the energy kind of works with you, right?
Absolutely. And I don't know if you can see this, but this is one of my favorite pieces. It
Beautiful
is
color.
the heart chakra. So she's painted as a goddess, and the heart chakra is all about nourishing and nurturing, and she's got the baby in it. And the heart chakra is actually aligned with God Hanuman, because Hanuman is all about loyalty and devotion. And then it's also, you've got a lot of different animals in the background because it's all about nature and plants and the universe and all coming in sync together.
I love that, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. I believe you showed me that image when
I did. I
when
did.
we met. Yes, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's I always say the heart chakra is the bridge. I call it the bridge chakra. I didn't coin that. Many people do because it is the center between the upper and lower, the connection
Yes.
between the spirit and the body, if you will, in theory.
Hmm.
And I always believe that following your heart, even despite what people will say is the right move, because
Oh,
I've also,
absolutely.
it's always kind of heart over head or heart versus head. And I just think that following your heart is always the way to go. But
I
that's the,
completely agree.
right.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's the nature and loyal lover in me, I suppose.
And you
I
cannot
definitely,
go wrong with love
no,
and kindness. That's it.
no,
And
no,
humanity, which trumps over everything else at the end of the day. Being
no.
human is all about
You're
kindness and love. True.
It is 100% true. So now I have another kind of side question for you. Do you ever open your Reiki channels as you're painting? Do you flow through that?
Yes, I do.
Wonderful.
Reiki is to me synonymous with creativity, and I cannot, for me, it's more of a way of life as well. The first thing I do is open up my chakras, align my energy, get the flow of energy with everything: painting, cooking, taking care of the dogs, the kids, like any inane act as well. I just open up the flow of energy because it just makes the whole process that much more nicer and just filled with more love and energy. It just
Yes.
brings about a big change, I believe.
Yes, I agree. And do you feel as though having that alignment with Reiki, with that kind of energy has opened up your intuition and in the moment, whether it's intuition towards what you're going to cook for dinner, whether it's intuition towards what you're going to paint, do you see the painting before it's on the canvas? Is that part of your process? Like or does it kind of change as you go through your process?
It actually kind of changes as I go through it. And there have been times when I've been stuck on a particular project. So I let it go. I do some meditation. I think about it. I let the flow of energy. And then I suddenly realize, okay, you know what? This is the wrong direction. This is where my intuition is telling me to go. And that turns out to be beautiful. The final project is very different from what I had envisioned in the beginning. But because of this Reiki energy, I feel like it's just so much better. And it's a spectacular piece. I end up loving it.
Yes, absolutely. And I had another wonderful female artisan on a little while ago, and she does crystal jewelry. And it's very, very beautiful. And she's not a Reiki practitioner, but I said to her, "Oh, well, maybe I can kind of infuse some Reiki into some of the crystal jewelry that you put together." But similar, do you practice any crystal use with your Reiki?
I do only for my own personal use when I'm meditating. I have crystals and I meditate upon that. So Reiki for me is just for my family, my friends, my animals, my art. I do not practice Reiki on as a profession, let's say.
Got it.
So just a
Got
very
it.
personal journey for me.
I think it started there for me. I think it starts there for so many people. And then it either, expands or it's to me, it's a universal energy, right? And anyone
Yes.
who goes through with that intention is able to then channel it. And I just think that it is exactly what you said. It is a way to basically increase and make everything better and bring the life force that's all around us, focus it into, let's say, for example, your artwork, which
Oh,
is,
absolutely. I would like to show you another piece. I was just trying to
yes,
figure out if I had any more. Can you see this piece? It's about this is the sun, she's the moon, but how it talks about how this is a whole universe, and the
yes,
universe is contained within us, and we are a part of the universe. It's the whole
it's all
energy
one.
flow that's going on over here. Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And that one actually caught my eye as well. And it's funny. So this whole sequence, because I always kind of use the yoga terminology as a tongue in cheek for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And this month has been all about heat and all about we were talking about sun salutes. I did a guided meditation on kind of taking the energy around you and mimicking the energy of the sun and drawing from that heat and drawing from that power and that kind of fiery source. And then I did a nutrition episode on spices for health and
Okay.
for well-being. So I love that you chose that kind of same solar energy kind of just organically. I think that's beautiful. So tell me a little bit more about what inspired you to be as female centric and divine feminine? Because I think a lot of us are hopefully waking up and tapping into our own divine feminine aspects. And I loved this. I loved what you shared, and we touched on it briefly already, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about what inspired you to really focus on bringing out that divine feminine empowering aspect.
So, like I mentioned before, I used to work a lot with women across the spectrum, a lot of different countries, different nationalities, different religions. And I realized that women, they don multiple hats. They have different roles that they effortlessly, seamlessly blend into their lives. And they are this mother, sister, wife, daughter, daughter-in-law. And there's a goddess I felt like within all of us when I started reading more about mythology. My mom and my grandma used to tell us stories about Indian mythology. And I would realize that we aren't that different from the goddesses. There's a goddess inside all of us. We have a Durga when it comes to courage. We have Yashodamba when it comes to protecting our children. We have the goddess Lakshmi. We go out, we work, we earn for the family. We have Saraswati inside us. We sing, we dance, and there's just so many other aspects of the goddesses that are within all of us. So I decided and I listened to these stories of the women, and I used to be inspired by the amount of work they achieved, the amount of bond they have with the nature, with plants, and amount of spirituality, not just religious, but spirituality they had in them. And so that inspired me a lot to start painting these stories and look more into mythology versus the average person. And I realized, yes, there is a goddess inside all of us. And I started working on that more.
I love that. I love that. And just, have you found that the people that, and I don't want to, I'm not sure, your audience necessarily for who is purchasing these paintings, but have you felt that, it definitely inspired me when I saw your artwork. So have you found that when women see your artwork, they feel that kind of natural pull and that kind of inspiration for their own healing, their own kind of, phoenix rising from the ashes, that kind of that that wake up call to the kind of divine goddess within them? Have you found that you've seen that in people that have come across your work?
Oh, absolutely. I have a beautiful, lovely client base that's spiritual, that's kind, and many of them, if you even go to my Etsy store, they've written reviews about it, about how my work um, spoke to them about a certain tragedy they were going through and about the strength it gave them, the courage it gave them to overcome something that was going on. Or it just spoke to them about a life situation and how to heal from it. So people really related a lot to the art. And that's when I realized, it could be a Hindu mythology story or it could be Greek mythology, but women across the world relate to it because we all have that deep energy within us. A goddess is a goddess. It could be any religion, right? It could be anything, but it's the energy behind the goddess that binds all the women together. And women relate to that.
100%. And I think also it's, the one common thread, whether you said in whether it's about mythology, whether it's about religion, there's one common thread through all of it, and it's storytelling, right?
Absolutely.
So whether you're talking biblical, whether you're talking Greek, whether you're talking Hindu, all of it is storytelling. And all of these characters, all of these deities, all of these human beings in some of this, there's humans in all of the stories, right? And so all
Absolutely.
even in our humble human life forms, the common thread through all of it is challenge. The common
Yes.
thread through everything is overcoming. And
Mhm.
if there's nothing to be overcome, there is no story to tell, in theory, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like a lot of our goddesses, they have been through some very difficult times. And every time there's a demon, per se, the demon could be any kind of evil that's threatening humans. The goddess comes out in her glory, in her fierceness, and she vanquishes that. Actually, now, as we speak, now we're celebrating the 9 days of worshiping goddesses. It's called Navratri, it's the Hindu festival. And this art, it's another art, it shows Durga. vanquishing all the demons, the evils. She came out when humans were suffering because of the demons. And the demons could be poverty, it could be oppression, it could be any kind. I mean, back in the day, they made them as demons so people could have something tangible to look at and say, yes, this is it. This needs to be destroyed. And the goddess came with all her glory to vanquish all the evil. And this is what we are celebrating now, these next 9 days.
Well, then that was just amazing that we just happened to be able to come together today. I absolutely love that. And forgive my ignorance for being unaware that that was going on as we speak, because I think that is so
Absolutely.
beautiful. And that, to me, that's divine timing, right? Like that's the divine working through both of us and brought us together. And I think
Absolutely.
that's wonderful. But yes, and I think that there is so much, you know, I always get called to, you mentioned Greek mythology, but I always get called to, I believe it was Spartan women that also, were fighters, right? Fought alongside, and there were not a lot of cultures where women we are the nurturers, but as you said, we have that kind of mama bear, that
Mhm.
mother that I will fight for my child, I will fight for people I love, the when you wake the beast, if you will, in a woman, it's generally, under duress or as a threat, just like you mentioned with Durga a moment ago. So it's that, someone I love, humanity that I care for is under attack, and it's akin to the mother whose child is stuck under a car, and in that moment she gets enough strength from the divine to lift the car up to save her child. We are fierce as and I think that a lot of times there's an element of trying to remain soft, I say soft in a way that I actually mean it as a compliment, and I mean it as a
Mhm.
strength. So as a woman, our strength oftentimes is in our ability to be soft, to have rounded edges, to be able to calm situations, mediate, bring people together. That is one of the kind of tenets I think that runs through family dynamics, social dynamics when it comes to women, that we can have the power to unite, right? But when it comes to the idea of that fierce protector, oftentimes throughout storytelling, throughout history, it's generally a hero. It's a man that does that.
Mhm.
And what I love about what you've done here with your artwork is that you've really brought out that 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 female ability to be a warrior. And I think even in, I don't want to say soft too many times, but even in that idea of protection and that kind of ability to not only create, right, but we also, if we need to, we do have the ability to destroy.
Oh, absolutely. And people strength comes in different forms. To your point, um, we have the festival of Diwali where we celebrate. It's based on the story Ramayana, the mythological story, where God Ram he goes into the forest and he's got his wife Sita with him. And so this is what I was trying to find. So I've painted the Ramayana told from Sita's point of view. Everybody thought she was this docile, mild, meek goddess who just followed Ram. But no, she was his strength. She was a warrior princess. She was responsible for a lot of events that shaped the Ramayana. It is her strength. So I've told this. It's always been told from Ram's point of view, but this is told from Sita's point of view to show that yes, she can be soft, she can be mild, but when the need arises, she can also have that strength in her to stand by her husband, her family for 14 years in the forest. That's what she did. And she deserves more credit for that, for everything that happened and how she endured all the stuff that was thrown her way.
Yes, and from what you've shared about, the story of how you kind of came to this artwork,
Mhm.
it was through endurance. It was through
Yes.
witnessing what other women have endured,
Mhm.
and feeling, intuitively or emotionally, connected, inspired by that again, that overcoming of what they went through, because there's a lot of pain behind how women have been treated over a millennia or more, right? Like it's
Mhm.
very um there's a lot of oppression there,
Yes,
cross culturally, and some cultures are way worse than others, and that's not what we're here to discuss. There's no
absolutely.
judgment, but on a whole, like as you said, the story was about Ram. It was from his perspective. Her perspective has very rarely been told, has been written in
Yes,
history. She is not what history is about. Or if it is, it's it's as a supporting character, right? It takes
hmm,
I think I don't want to mess the quote up, but there was a quote. I will find out who it was that said it, but it says well-behaved women rarely make history. So
absolutely. I've heard that too.
right. And so that's kind of that women are supposed to stay in their place mentality, that very male driven, history is written by men. Women aren't allowed to be educated, or women weren't allowed to,
Hmm.
be outside of their place. And I feel like as we move forward, there will always be work to be done from a place of equality, from a place of respect, from a
Hmm.
place of, but I think that this is my personal opinion, and I hope that I don't get myself in trouble by saying it. I think there's always been the aspect of women's ability to create,
Yes.
and the fact that while we need men, and I don't want to get in, this is not just to, I always kind of preface and say this is not a gender conversation. I will never, there is no comment on that. This is a scientific, male, female, takes two to tango and to create life, but it is the women who bring forth that life. And that is such a strength, and that is such a power. And talk about endurance, talk about pain, talk
Hmm.
about talk about going through a challenge to bring life into this world. That is something that only women do. And I think that there's an inherent historical kind of squishing down of that strength, because it may or may not have felt like a threat. Now, that's my personal, little critique, but I do believe that, as women, we are coming into our power, from like a spiritual perspective, like women as a whole. Do you think that you feel
Absolutely.
that similar? I mean, just in your artwork alone, and that's what's inspiring me to even say that out loud, is that with the artwork that you're putting forth, do you feel that now is a time where artwork like this can be received?
Oh, absolutely. And here's the thing, to your point, it's not about one gender being better than the other or anything like that. It's yin and yang. We both need to complement each other. And people have asked me, they're like, oh, so just because you paint the goddess, does that mean you don't think well of men or the masculine energy or the gods? And I said, look, you can celebrate women, you can celebrate the divine feminine without putting down the masculine part of it. And just because you're celebrating women, doesn't mean that I'm talking about men in a derogatory way. Absolutely not. It's just a celebration of something that was historically perceived to be weaker, that was never historically celebrated, like you said. But
Right.
now I want to do that. I want to give a voice to those goddesses that weren't in the mainstream, who people do not know much about, and also women's struggles. Now, I think with everything that's going on in the world, women are more aware, men are more aware of the fact that, yes, women go through a lot, they fight a lot. It's a battle, it's a struggle, not just at home, at outside, for a woman to prove her worth and be taken seriously. She has to work twice as hard in the world outside. And it is a fact, it is true, to break the glass ceiling. It's not easy, and I think people are relating a lot to that. And so there is this one art, I don't know if you can see it,
Yeah,
but
you
I
might
have
have to
talked about.
shift us over. Oh, that one's beautiful.
So it talks about this age-old tradition that used to exist in India about Devdasis. Children were sold, little girls were sold into temples to become servants of God. And basically, what it was back then was a way to exploit the women and the children, because it was glorified prostitution, basically. But now people are fighting back, and it's pretty much eradicated. It doesn't exist anymore because women fought and said, no, we don't want that to happen to us. So this is this Devdasi. She's breaking free. This is all the traditional clutches and the bonds that was holding her back. But now this is her breaking free and saying, you know what, I deserve better, I can do this, I do not need this life, I'm going to move on and do things for myself.
Yes, and I think that's like that. I think that kind of that there it is. There's your divine feminine. There's your phoenix rising.
Absolutely.
There's your you know millennia of being pushed down, millennia of being, whether it was entrapped, whether it was told, whether it was a you know a an inability or a lack of access to education, whether it was a lack of access to resources financially, whether it was, talk about your glass ceiling. I mean, even from what I understand, historically, yoga wasn't even allowed to be practiced by women for many, many,
Yes.
many, many
Yes.
years, right?
True.
So, I mean, this is just, it has been, unfortunately, it's been a constant cross culturally. Again, like it is just a theme. And, for me, I was blessed to be raised with a very wonderful, very soft, but very strong mother. And I think it made me who I am. And I think that it is so important. I know you have a very lovely daughter whom I was able to meet.
Thank
And I
you.
think it's so important to inspire our young women,
Mhm.
just like that, you do deserve better. You can break free. I will support you as your family, as your mother, as your, we rise together, right? No woman is an island, but there is strength in women supporting each other. And I think part of what has kept us down, and I will say this, I don't know, I can't speak to the cultural aspects of it, but I think is a lot of division, a lot of competition between women, and a
Mhm.
lot less support. Where, and it doesn't even matter whether it's for a job, whether it's for a relationship, whether it's for if you have multiple children and they're competing for their parents' affection, whatever it might be. As soon as you start to divide women from each other as opposed to bring them together and lift them up, it starts to help with that isolation, that keeping them down, that preventing the divine feminine as a spiritual whole from elevating. And I think that it's so important. The work that you do is inspirational, and I think that it's so important for us as women to support each other, to do things like this, where we lift each other up and we bring attention and awareness to the beauty that you happen to be creating.
Thank you so much. And that's so beautifully said. And you're right. It has become very divisive, not just in terms of work, but breastfeeding versus formula feeding, stay at home mom, working mom, like everything. The list just goes on and on and on. And I think if we can put all those differences aside and realize that every woman is trying her best, she just wants to do what makes her happy, just trying her best to live a beautiful life, a fulfilling life. And there is no rule book to live life, right? Everybody has to do whatever makes them happy. And that's why you have different options in this world for everything. And it's very nice that now I see the younger generation, there is no backbiting, backstabbing, or as they're called. They're very supportive of each other and they're more open, they're very understanding. And I really like to see where this young generation is headed. And that's our future. And it makes me very happy.
Yeah, I think that's, I think it's wonderful that it's starting to kind of trend positively in that
Mhm.
direction, because I think with every generation, we hope that we evolve as a species, right? Male and female, gender aside, right? Whatever your choice is, we're seeing choices be supported, even across gender.
Mhm.
The choice and the acknowledgement of who you love, the choice and the acknowledgement of who you feel you are, to be true to yourself, the choice and acknowledgement of, you know, the lifestyle that you choose to live. And, I also think that, to your point, while there's an element of, what makes you happy and what your choices, I do believe that people have divine inherent gifts, whatever,
Yes.
and talents, whatever they may be. And, I'm sure that if I sat with a paintbrush, I could put something on a canvas, but I don't think it would be anything, near what you've put out and the artwork that you've created, because I think that's a special and unique gift, divine inspiration, divine, you inherent in you. That was your inspiration. That was the universe, Reiki energy, whatever it is, God, whatever you believe in, working through you. And this is what you bring out to the world. And I think that if we support women, men, everyone to tap into those inherent, universe, divine given gifts and exploit. You have to be able to like, what if you had never held a paintbrush? You have to be able to explore. You have to have the safety and the support to explore different avenues to find out what speaks to you, who you truly are, where your inherent gifts lie. And I think that, the breaking free painting really speaks to me, because how those girls didn't get to explore. They didn't have support. They weren't safe. There was nothing in them. And imagine what we lost as a world over the millennia of the oppression of women. And imagine the gifts, what could have been created that was suppressed if things had gone differently. But I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And I hope, just like you said, and to your point again, that your daughter and that your son and that your family, our next generations will have that safety, will have that support, and that we can grow and they can create and they can bring wonderful, beautiful things just like their mother has into this world and into this existence.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I was also raised by a very strong mom and a grandma. I saw my mom's mom,
Yes.
back in the day when my grandma had 7 kids and her husband passed away at a very young age, and she had to work hard to raise all of them. And I've seen her very sweet, soft spoken, but that inner strength always shone through. And you could tell that this was a very strong woman who's raised wonderfully well balanced, rounded kids. And my mom was like that too. Very nice, a pillar of strength for us through everything. But at the same time, she was there when we needed a hug, a kiss. The softness was very well balanced with the strength. And I think that's where I learned my strength from, probably.
Yes, and it does, and that's what I mean. Like, and you'll pass it down. You'll pass it down as well. And I think I love. It came to me earlier. I love that you use the term pillar of strength, because I think there is active and there is passive, and I don't like to pigeonhole women and put them in the passive category. But there is an element of, without the pillars, without the structure, the building will fall.
Yes.
And I think that women are often charged with being the pillar, being the support, but those feminine, archetype isn't the right word, but those feminine inherent strengths are oftentimes, as you said, overlooked or not valued or devalued even. And whereas the masculine strengths, let's just use, for example, the glass ceiling in finances, right? The fact that a man can go out and make potentially more money than a woman doing the same thing with the same education level, et cetera. The traits that women inherently have in theory, right, to support that man in theory when he comes home. And again, we're not having a conversation on a nuclear family or any other chosen lifestyle choices, but just the idea that what is valuable to society in an alignment with a kind of a male driven society is not valuable, let's say financially or monetarily, even though that those support structures are in place all the time by those women. And you mentioned stay-at-home mom versus working mom. It's like women, they're going to do all the things, right? They're going to do both. Even if they're working, they're still going to be that pillar at home or for their family or for their friends, their social structure, whatever it may be, whatever their choices have led them to. And so it's the onus falls on us to do, like you said, double or more than, and to be seen societally potentially as less valuable. I just think of a mother who stayed at home with her children and then decided to try to re-enter the workforce, and her salary is not going to be what the salary of a woman who didn't choose a family and went through the workforce and had that 10 to 15 years of experience that mom didn't have. That doesn't mean that her value is any less.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Completely.
So I just think that I think that my hope is, as you mentioned, these new generations kind of supporting each other, being less competitive, kind of having having more conscientiousness and awareness and love towards each other, I hope that that expands out societally, into valuing traits, into valuing characteristics that maybe aren't strictly aggressive or active, but that those pillars and those support structures start to receive the value that they deserve.
Oh, absolutely. It is, and it's very important for not just our daughters, but our sons to learn that as well, to be pillars of strength. Like my son loves to cook. And I think at some point somebody had asked him, oh, you're a guy, why do you need to cook? And he said, A, it's a life skill. Everybody needs to learn how to cook. And he said, B, well, what happens tomorrow if my wife, girlfriend, partner, she's working outside of the house and she comes back, she's tired. I need to be able to support her. Or even if she's not working outside the home, she's still working inside the house, and I need to be able to do certain things. And that's when I looked at him and said, that's good. See, men also need to learn that. And can I show you small art that depicts that?
Yeah,
So
please.
in this, we always talk about this is Shiva and Ganga. So Ganga has always been in the background. She's always been on Shiva's head and she flows from there. But goddess Ganga, she's the one we Hindus believe who washes away all the sins. We pray to her for any auspicious event with flowers in the Ganga. And she's the one where the after cremation, the ashes are put in the Ganga. So she washes away everything and prepares you for your new life and rebirth. But then she's never been celebrated. She's always been in the background. Yes, we worship her, but it's always Shiva, Lord Shiva. But in this art, Shiva is in the background, being a pillar of strength for Ganga, so she can flow and do whatever it is that she needs to do to support humanity, to make sure humans are taken care of. So this is her being in the front, and that's Shiva saying, you know what, I'll support you. You go out there. It's kind of like a stay-at-home dad saying, you know what, you go out there, things are changing. You go support the family. You do stuff, and I'll be in the background helping you.
Yes, and I love that. I love that juxtaposition. I love that you know, it is true. It is shifting and it should shift. There should be equal choices for both,
Mhm.
and respect and love and support, because even within a partnership, I won't even say a marriage, but even within a partnership, in whether it's romantic, whether it's platonic, whatever it may be, whether it's business, as a partnership evolves and people grow and change, that those roles may change, just like your son said. Even from day to day, from year to year, from decade to decade, roles change and shift, and the ability to move with those roles and to be able to do different things, support the space, and just be a, like you said, a pillar of strength, or pick up, I believe it was Brene Brown, who was talking about, picking up the percentage of your partner, where they come
Yes.
home and they said, listen, I have 20%. And it's the role of the other partner to pick up that 80% in that evening. Or if they both have 20%, I just saw this recently in an interview. If they both have 20%, then, be kind to each other.
Yes.
If you can't match what the other needs, then don't take away if you're both struggling in that moment. And I think that I loved that, because I think it's just a wonderful way to look at partnerships. But I also believe that what you say is 100% true. And again, here we have the classic Lord Shiva, and the fact that he's always the dominant one in the structure, right?
Mhm.
And the female deity is washing away and clearing and cleansing, and those roles, right? Those, what we've looked at historically as male or female roles, feminine or masculine roles, are now becoming a little more amalgamous, are now becoming a little more formless. And hopefully the ability of that is to maybe remain abstract and formless, so that we can then be one instead of divided, whether it's male and female, whether it's female against female or male against male, like cohesion, coming together,
Absolutely.
realizing that we are all one with the same energy. And as much as division as we can remove, right? The more I think that as a consciousness, as a collective consciousness, we will have the ability to grow and be kinder. I was going to say better, but better not in a way of competition, but better in a way of kinder, more loving, more accepting, more generous with one another, less competitive, less you versus me and more us together.
Better human beings, basically, with
Yes.
more humanity. And that's the thing. I read this article about the invisible load that women always have, even if they're sitting, they're thinking about a lot of different things, and people need to pick up the slack at home to realize that women go through all these lists mentally in their head, whether they're sitting, sleeping, watching TV. Like this one art, it talks about how the woman is tired and exhausted, but she still got a lamp which is actually telling her, you know what, I need to keep pushing forwards. I need to keep going. I cannot let myself sleep because there's so much stuff that needs to be done. The laundry needs to be changed. Speaking of which, I think I need to do that too. The dishes need to be done. Cooking needs to be done. The kids, the house, my work, emails need to be responded to. So, there's an invisible load. And sometimes women find it difficult to sleep at night. They struggle. Why? Because they're thinking about all the million things, little things that need to be done, right from the soap needs to be refilled, and the dog's bowl needs to be refilled with water, all those things. I think it's time everybody came together to pick up that invisible load. Like you said, 80-20. It shouldn't always be the woman's responsibility. Everybody should come together. And that's what my art tells, that women go through so much, and now times are changing. The younger generation is realizing that, and they're supporting each other, which is beautiful, very beautiful.
It is beautiful. It is, and I think that it's so true that we have. I think we notice, we pay
Mhm.
attention on a different level, and I do think that comes from a maternal instinct place, whether you have children or not.
Yes.
I just think that there's, like I said, certain inherent traits and characteristics that comes from a genetic protective place, and that kind of overseeing everything and taking it all in is exhausting. It's exhausting
Yes.
because you don't
Yes.
turn it off, right? You never Women don't shut down. We don't,
No.
even if, and that's why we find it challenging to sleep, because we don't stop. And
Yeah.
we don't stop. It's like it's from one thing to the next, and you wake up the next morning and it's go 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 again. And um I think that's a kind of the divine mission or challenge for us, is to be able to allow, to receive, right? So the divine feminine is all about receptivity. And I think if we allow ourselves to receive the support, just because it's offered doesn't mean we take it, right? Because
Yes, that's true.
a lot of women still want, they think they could do it better, or it's not going to be done their way, and so they're going to do it. Even if someone does it, they'll do it again, or they'll do it differently, or
Yes.
right. And there's a lot of that as well. And so, no one cooks quite like mom, or that kind of mentality, or the way you fold the laundry that I know you need to get to. So, I think there's an element of the collective consciousness, the divine feminine, being open and practicing being in the receptive energy, receiving support, receiving love, receiving rest, right? You need to
Yes.
receive rest. And I just think that it's just one of our challenges, is as the divine masculine, I'm sure, has to work on being that pillar of support, and starting to to give, right? We need to be able to receive as the divine feminine,
Yes. Absolutely.
and to allow that to be okay. So I don't know that if we actually touched on it. So I just want to make sure that all of our listeners know how to find you. And it's Kriya Arts, correct?
Yeah. Kriya Arts.
And it's
And
K.
Kriya Arts, and my Etsy store is Kriya Arts Prints Gifts. And a lot of my art prints, my posters, my bags. I have little clutches like this.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you. It can be used as a clutch or as a jewelry box, so it's both. So I have a lot of wearable art as well, because, I just feel like art just shouldn't be on the walls. You should be able to carry it and talk about it and tell a story and have the energy go with you all the time.
Yes. Yes.
So it's all available there, and please feel free to check it out.
Wonderful. Well, I think this has just been a wonderful conversation. I thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. And I just want to tell everyone who's listened to us that I appreciate each and every one of you for sharing this space with us, and ask that you please feel free to share the same with your loved ones. For more goodness, follow me on all the socials at Above the Ground Podcast and visit my website, airsAboveYoga.com. And as always, please don't forget to check out my other episodes and all of my amazing sisters at divasthatcare.com. You can find us on Spotify, Odyssey, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you might feel guided. Again, my name is Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you are listening to Above the Ground Podcast, where every day is a good one.